Hello, welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez. This is Interviews from Quito, the program where we explore the big challenges facing this country and the region. In today's program, we take a look at the situation inside the National Assembly of Ecuador. Lawmakers have turned down an economic law proposed by the government, which was a fast solution to weeks of anti-austerity protests. So what will happen next? Will the government desist, or will it have the IMF pressing on more economic cuts? To discuss this, we have lawmaker Ronny Aleaga. But first, let's take a look at this video.
Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno says he will send a new economic reform bill to the National Assembly. That comes after the Assembly voted on Sunday to reject and shelve his economy bill, which was part of his bailout agreement with the International Monetary Fund. With 133 members present at its plenary session, Ecuador's National Assembly decided with 70 votes to reject and shelve the government's bill on urgent economic development. Following this blow to the government's economic policy, President Lenin Moreno announced he would send a new economic bill focusing on taxes and a separate bill dealing with reforms to the Financial Planning Code. Many economists say the economic situation is getting worse, and there is little perspective of improvement with or without a new economic law. What comes next for the Ecuadorian economy? Follow our analysis.
So thank you for your time, Ronny. So let's begin by understanding, so our viewers can understand as well, what happened in the National Assembly in Ecuador. Why was this urgent economic law blocked by the lawmakers?
Thank you, Carlita, for the invitation. Greetings to all of the brothers and sisters of the great Latin American country. And from Ecuador, our party, the Revolución Ciudadana, is keep on working for the less fortunate people, of the people in Ecuador. This block, as you mentioned, that ended up in filing a law and that only tried to favor the elite and above all the banking area, and because they are the ones that are co-governing with President Moreno. Filing this law is a product of what people are asking us to do. We have heard these people, and this is how we've acted. We've done it with our votes and with our voice. Some said that there might be a new majority, a new alliance between Revolución Ciudadana and with other parties, and this is not true. Everything was transparent. We are the first majority. We're consistent in our voting, and this shows that we're very disciplined in the way we vote. Second, if the opposition or our adversaries voted with us in this occasion was because it answers to the popular roar, to what everybody claims. This magnitude of law would have affected the situation of the people that is already critical. But it's not, we cannot blame all this on the political area, because this is what the regime is doing. They're saying that it's our fault, it's because we lost in the voting polls, and now they're saying that we are against the economic development, when we think that they had things that were not substantial, were not important, and that this law was going to guarantee that the banking area were going to keep on governing as they do now. And even worse, that they were going to play with the people's pockets. It was to put their hands directly in the pockets of those who are less favored, with no incentives for society or for the small entrepreneurs that right now need a break. It has also been said that through this we are trying to block the development of economy. Well, look at this law had such a big name of optimization, transparency, nothing, and to generate job, and it had nothing to do with it. So more than 400 articles and modifying 22 laws. It was unconstitutional, it was illegal, and now we know that they're going to present a new project which will be focused on taxes.
And also, Ronny, to understand where it comes from, where this law comes from, we have to look at the past weeks, the past couple of months. We had almost 12 days of protest in Ecuador against austerity measures imposed by the IMF. And apparently, after the protests ended, this law became as an alternative to that situation. Again, it was a sort of a solution to what happened. Do you see that as not following or not fulfilling the promises to the popular resistance groups that were on the streets?
Well, I really think that this doesn't answer the popular demands, and it will not revindicate what all of the people went to the streets for. This does not answer their demands. And let's recall, here we have a president that is a liar, who called the indigenous organizations to a dialogue, and then they had to go away from the table because the government was not coming through with the agreements. This is terrible because this law that was supposed to be passed was answering to the black hand of the International Monetary Fund. This is their way of getting to our governments and to devastate all of our resources and generate conditions that benefit them, because at the end, it's them who give us the money, and we have to have the debt for many years. And beyond this, this work that is being carried out by the National Assembly is not a political bloc. It's not a revenge. It is just common sense. Time is giving us the reason, because we've got a president that has no leadership skills. He has no political force, and as it's been said, the president, maybe after all the protests, he kept the presidential band, but he doesn't have the power. Not even his own political party supports him. That's why I was saying at the beginning that we are the first political force in the assembly, and we're consistent in how we vote. Because if you see how they're acting, they're not consistent. They're not working for the people. Up until now, I see a law where the national government also asks the businessmen, why don't they ask them to pay their taxes? Last year, they forgave him some taxes. Why can't they give the same benefits to normal people, to forgive the interests or to condone some of their loans, just like they did with the companies? Why don't they give them more times and diminish the interest rates? This could be have an impact.
So it seems that all of these parts of the law were never agreed with the citizens and with the lawmakers. But the government insists that it's a good law, that it's a necessary law, that it takes away some of the burden of the money that the government needs to pay, for example, on gas subsidies. And it also says that there's a loan given to students that the government is willing to forfeit, that the students won't have their debt anymore. Is that true?
Well, the government's proposal had just populist proposals, because what they spoke of, the people who have student loans and now have these debts, if they want to solve this, they can do it through a decree. Second, to alleviate the load of the government, Esteban Melo presented a proposal that speaks about this particular topic. So now they have no excuse. Now let's see what is their will, and let's see who wants to support this proposal. But what you mentioned, that the government said that we should have supported this law because it was beneficial for the country, it was false. It was beneficial, but for the elites. for the economic elites and particularly for the banking area. The resources that are deposited in the bank, we think that we're protecting 60% of all of these deposits. And if they go bankrupt, then we can pay back to that money to the ones that have less deposits, and then to the bigger deposits. They want to eliminate that. They also wanted to eliminate Article 120 that spoke of how the money leave this country. Do you know how risky this could be? We have an economy based on our dollars. The only thing that we can do is implement the laws. But if our money leaves, we have nothing left. We have to protect the dollarization here. And that's how you can protect it. They wanted to reduce to the half this tax to 2.5, by which it would bring very serious consequences. There would be a limitation on the circulation of money. This would be totally beneficial for the banking system. After eliminating the banking committee, there would be another one that would stabilize, a big name that would represent the golden bureaucracy, people who are designated by the president directly and have no political responsibility. This means a total amnesty. So if they made a bad decision and cause a political crisis, nobody could go after them. So with this regulation committee that they propose, there would be we would be going back to the 90s, to the people who want to have control. And they were going to determine the interest rates that the market would have to abide by. So we were back in the hands of the banking system. Let's not forget that in the 90s, all of the hurt that was caused on the Ecuadorians. And this was going to be caused by the people who co-governed with Moreno. Before, we had this man that had a suitcase full of money to pay off people. And what they did was to talk with the legislators who are just trying to defend their seats, and what they're saying is, go find out all of the relatives of these people at Congress. They only answer not to their convictions, but to their personal interests.
Let's look at how the National Assembly will stand now, because according to the Ecuadorian Constitution, if some of the laws that the government proposes are blocked in that specific place, the government can call for elections on both sides, both the president and the National Assembly. Could that take place, because now that you said this law has been archived or blocked?
Look, in our country, there's a veto of speaking about this, because if you do, you'll be put on trial, you'll be detained without any evidence. But it turns out that two ministers and a current minister and a former minister both say something and then they step back on it. And they even spoke about this scenario. But beyond how the forces of the assembly are at the moment, right now I think it's a distraction, because they're talking at the same time of this new economic economic proposal, and this new budget proposal that also has a lot of inconstitutionalities. Basic principles are not respected. There is no increase for health and education. There is a higher priority for police and militaries than to education. This is the agenda of the government. They want to give more budget to military and police to go after the people instead of investing more in education. Why invest more in military and police if we have no conflict right now? We're a peace country. But we don't want to bet on the young people, on the human talent. They don't want to bet on all of the people in Ecuador that will determine the develop of our country. From there, you can see what are the principles they are abiding by. I was able to participate in a roundtable with the central bank director and the minister of economy, where I said, where I gave them my points of view, and I asked, why are we investing more on militaries than on education? Why, if last year the budget was approved, we have not been able to fulfill that in 60%. Why do we think that if we approve a new general budget, you will go through with it? Last year they spoke of 1 billion and then 2 billion. And now this year they say of 2 billion, that is the amount of money that they're going to be able to get if they sell national companies. First they're going to start with the small ones, and then they're going to go with big ones. Or what are we going to do? So I think these are questions that the people of Ecuador must reflect on. This is not by chance. This is the conservative enforcement. It's not a coincidence that what's going on in Chile. It's not by coincidence that the right has taken over the Bolivian government. Look what's going on in Brazil with Dilma and Lula. Look what's happening in Ecuador against Jorge and Rafael. Here, if you don't succumb to the economic powers, then you will be called a destabilizer and that you're not working for the people. We are working for the interest of the majority of people. And right now, it's the time for the truth. It's time to reveal some stuff. We will determine in the economy who are those who are next to the most humble and who are in favor of the big companies.
And now the government of Lenin Moreno now says that it will send a new law, a new urgent economic law to be approved by the Assembly. What do you think this law needs to have to be approved by the lawmakers in the National Assembly?
Well, they already anticipated it. That's the tax thing. And the tax is directly to the people, to the most humble. I'm sorry to repeat this all the time, but it's the majority of Ecuadorians. It is 92% of the population, the most humble of the people. It's against them, because you will not find that they're going to forgive all of the taxes and all of the loans they have not been able to pay. You're not going to find that they're going to have credits at longer time and with less interest. What they're doing is trying to find the mechanism to increase taxes. They want to eliminate the subsidies to extra and diesel. And within the new budget, they still have this topic. We know that the subsidies must be focalized. In a dollarized economy, it's very hard to keep up with the subsidies. We must focalize on them. But why don't we generate the conditions for the taxes? Go directly to the business people. They're going to the business people and to the banking system. In 2 years and a half, they've broken records in revenue. So they've been using the resources, not of the bank, but of those of the deposits. They should also put their effort in this. And if they already had all of the benefits last year, well, now they should also do their part. But we shouldn't go against the poorest part.
Question, Ronny. How do you see the stability of this government, looking at how the laws are being blocked by the assembly? There's also the protests are continuing, at least they are continuing in word. A lot of these social movements are saying that they will continue protesting against austerity measures, against IMF measures. How do you see this affecting the government?
Well, the stability of the government, I think it's not so firm. I have to say that it's hard to speak this freely, but it's the spontaneous way how the social movements have gone to the streets to demand their rights. When people go to the streets, they ask for their rights, but when the economic elite go to the streets, they demand their privileges. We're working for those who need the most. We're going to keep on defending the most humble. But additionally, in such a pivotal topic, which is the lawfare, which is the prosecution against the people of the Revolución Ciudadana, here justice should show they still have some decency, that they haven't proven that yet. In cases with no evidence, with just with witnesses, with pen drives that have been lost, they have detained and they have sentenced people. In the case that I spoke of, the INA papers, that there's $18 million. There has been nothing has been done. I think that they have to inaugurate decency, the judges now, and they have to act in an objective way. And if they have to, and if some people have to go to jail, well, so be it. Even if it's the brother of the president, the friends of the president, and the president himself, Lenín Moreno, who will have to answer when we have an impartial justice and we're able to bring back the state of government. He will have to answer for everything he's done. And we will find out who is who.
Ronny, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but thank you very much for coming here.
Muchísimas gracias.
So we've been talking to lawmaker Ronny Aleaga, Ecuadorian Assembly member, on the urgent economic reforms that the government is pressing the Assembly to pass and what it needs to prevent popular protests if it wants to continue in power. Thank you for watching Interviews from Quito. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.